Save the Semantics, Hip Hop Discovery. Today we took a listen to David Dallas's Falling Into Place. David Dallas is a New Zealand rapper. You introduced me to him. What do you know about him?
I first heard him on FIFA 14 on the
Yeah.
soundtrack.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
exactly. And then
Yeah.
I looked into him, and that was the only song I knew from running, obviously.
Yeah.
And I kind of forgot about him for all these years, and then
Uh-huh.
finally got reintroduced to him again.
Yeah.
Just listened to his music and whatnot again. So
Mhm. It'll be yeah. It was like interesting hearing that there's like I mean, I'm not really that surprised because there's rappers from all over the world, but I haven't really heard anything from like sort of down south, like
yeah, down under.
Australia, down under. Yeah, exactly. So this is my first introduction to the that kind of hip hop. But it didn't really sound anything like that different from what
No,
I've heard
I
before.
mean he definitely has influence from a lot of American
Oh,
rappers.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, he
Um,
mentions Big Pun, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre,
yeah.
and all those songs.
When I went into the album first, I definitely sort of heard and was sort of expecting like a sort of like a pop rap vibe from it, and I was like, okay, I was sort of like put off by it because it was sort of like leaning a
You
little
talking about the
towards
first song?
the first song
Yeah, The
was sort of
Wire. Yeah.
it was sort of leaning towards like a G-Eazy sound, and I'm not entirely sure if I was like really feeling up to it,
Yeah.
but eventually as the album went along, I kind of grew sort of more closer to his sound. Although I don't know if he has a necessarily distinct sound, but I think it was more like palpable to my like taste.
Well, I actually took a listen to his first album and part of his third album because this is his sophomore album right
Uh
here.
huh.
Or no, sorry, no, this is his third album that we're talking about. But
Yeah.
I listened to his very first, and I didn't quite finish his sophomore album.
Yeah.
But they all kind of have the same ideas and like subject matter.
Mhm.
I like them. I do like them all. They're a lot more conscious. I don't. I kind of feel like there's some good songs like to definitely like vibe to, but a lot
Yeah.
of it is I would say more of like
Introspective.
yeah, it's just more like you
Yeah.
listen to it and you hear what he has to say.
Yeah, I
So,
appreciate that. Yeah, definitely. I
and
think that's the
not
kind
a
of how I
bad
look at it.
thing. I do like those kind of
Yeah.
songs. So
Yeah. Do you think that his going into this is this his third album? I think.
yeah, this is third. He
Do you,
has four so far. I haven't heard his fourth album yet.
based on what you've heard so far, do you think his has he changed? Has there been any like changes to what he's like any changes to his sound, his lyricism, or anything like that?
Well, his subject matter. Well, I feel like the subject matter was a bit different in every album.
Yeah.
So like his very first album, what I really liked was how he talked about the risks he took of becoming a rapper. He
Mhm.
talked about how he could have been a computer science major and
Mm.
continue with the university with all of his friends.
Okay.
But he took the risk of becoming a rapper, and now he's apparently one of the biggest celebrities in New Zealand.
Right.
Because if you look at the charts of all of his albums, they all charted pretty high.
Hmm.
Falling into place, I think, peaked at number 2 in New Zealand.
Oh, that's pretty good.
So,
Good for him.
yeah.
I think based on what you're saying, I heard some of the things that he talks about is just sort of like growing up in like New Zealand and stuff like that, which is kind of interesting because I don't really know that much about the culture. Once again.
And I didn't realize, like, even like looking into Genius.com to like understand like more of what he's saying.
Yeah.
Like I didn't like I learned a lot about the country itself
Yeah.
just from his music
Hmm.
and like the problem of crime like in because he's from Auckland.
Yeah. I didn't even. These are
really-
things that I'm not even like aware of. So I
like,
think it's like
and like how
interesting
there's
to learn
crime
about.
in like in the poor areas like mostly Samoans and Maori people.
Uh-huh.
So
It's
and he-
interesting.
'cause
Isn't
he-
he's half
he's half
Samoan?
Samoan, I
Yeah,
think, and
that's
then
right.
he's like half European.
Yeah,
So.
that's interesting. That's like something I'm not even entirely aware of. Going into the album, have you listened to this album before, or is this your first time?
This is actually my first time listening to the entire thing.
Yeah.
Like I heard, like I always had running on repeat.
Uh-huh.
Like when it first came out.
Yeah.
So.
What was your like thoughts initially after listening to it?
To
for
the whole
first time?
album, I would say it's different from what we've listened to.
Yeah,
Not
I'd say,
and again, not in a bad way.
right.
I do like how it's he talks about his personal life and
Hmm.
and then of course how he wants to be bigger than how he is now.
Yeah, definitely.
So I do like that, and I do like how he takes influence from a lot of other people.
He does take a lot of influence from other people.
Like complaint wise, I don't. I mean, there's some songs that were kind of like whatever. Like I thought there's one song where I actually don't remember if it was this. I think it was. Actually, I don't remember if it was this album or another one. But like he tries to do I think he tried doing trap rap in one of them, and it didn't really sound all that good.
There was one song where he was trying to do a bit more of like a mainstream sort of appeal, I think.
Yeah.
Like a mainstream appeal to like an American audience, I think.
Yeah.
This definitely felt like this is sort of like an album that you'd hear from like kind of like semi underground rapper from the U.S. So like an Atmosphere or like a Dumbfounded. It's kind of his style and like sort of what he talks about is similar to those kinds of rappers, and I sort of appreciate that. But he's talking more from a different perspective.
Exactly.
And I kind of like that. Definitely a lot of influences for sure. I think once it got to like running, I think the album started to pick up for me. That's when I started to, okay, I actually kind of like these songs. There's a lot of like blues and like jazz samples throughout the album
Like I
that
know
I
in
like
Running he
appreciate.
sampled. I forgot what the song's called, but it's a song from the 1950s.
Yeah.
Because if you watch the music video, it's him in a church, and the song in the verse, of course, is "I got a newborn in the pew," talking about someone leaving their baby in the pew of a church.
Yeah.
So, if you watch the music video, it kind of makes sense with he's in a church in rural New Zealand, and then it fits everything.
It's just a theme.
You kind of have to see it, like really.
I'll definitely
see
check
how
it
it
out for
is,
sure.
yeah.
But I think the production for that specific song and also some of the other songs I enjoyed. I think it fits well with like the theme. He has a solid flow throughout the album as well. I think he has like a good like good grasp on what or how he wants to present himself and stuff like that. I think this is definitely the type of album that, speaking for my own personal like preference, this is something that I probably would have enjoyed maybe like a few years earlier. I think now I've like heard a lot of these albums, so like it's kind of hard to like differentiate his sound from like other rappers, but I still can like appreciate what he brings to the table,
definitely.
Yeah. Is there any other songs that you kind
I
of
really do like
liked?
Local Celeb because he talks
Yeah,
about
I like that
his
one
own
too.
like status within New Zealand, and then Southside I thought was a really good song.
Yeah.
Where he's talking about the only in a crime-ridden area of South Auckland,
Yeah.
the only thing you could do is just play rugby.
Yeah.
In hopes of trying to make the All Blacks.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's just sort of like looking into like the struggles of like New Zealand youth, which
And
is something.
and it's something that
heard about.
I mean, I was kind, I wouldn't say ignorant, but it's just something that I wasn't really aware of.
No, I
until
have.
listening to it.
I didn't even know. Like, it's kind of. It was It's definitely like ignorance on my part. Like, I didn't even realize that New Zealand had issues of like that kind of poverty. I always just kind of like pushed it aside. It's like New Zealand is like, because I've heard like from like a general consensus, New Zealand is a very safe place for the most part. But I'm still. It's just like they deal with like similar issues like just as over here,
Yeah.
And I think if you look at it from like another perspective, like say someone looking at the U.S., they might not be aware of our issues with like poverty and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I felt about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I thought that was I thought it was nice because I actually like learned something new after listening to the album and the South Side song as well. Like you said, I like Local Celeb, like talking about just being in a position of like noteworthiness, I guess, in his position, being like recognized too, which I thought was interesting. Like how his relationship with his like hometown sort of changes as he became more popular and more well known in the country. I thought that was like a pretty interesting thing. The song with Freddie Gibbs, I forgot what that was called. That was good as well.
That was let me see. I can look it up right here. Oh, My Mentality.
My Mentality was good as well. I thought it was interesting. Like he was able to get Freddie Gibbs on here. I didn't know he had that kind of connection. But
like, what would you say was the best part about like that song? Like,
I think the best part of the song was just sort of like both of their. I was like I didn't know how well Freddie Gibbs was gonna fit with the rest of the song, but I was surprised at how well they kind of complemented each other. Both presented sides of like how they're trying to become more successful and sort of how they're dealing with just certain things. I think that was just sort of the that's what I enjoyed the most about it, is just how well they actually worked together. Even despite being from completely different sides of the planet. So that's something else that I enjoyed. I think I think the song, the right there, that song was the one song where I was sort of like kind of on the fence about. It was sort of had like an R&B sort of feel to it,
Right,
2000
right,
R&B
yeah.
feel to it. I don't know if that's the song you were talking about when you
Might have been.
mentioned.
I don't know.
I think it was just. I think that's the one song that sort of felt out of place for me, mainly because like the majority of the other songs were kind of like much more just lyrical, just more rap oriented. So
Mm-hmm.
that kind of threw me off a little bit, but it didn't like just like it didn't completely like ruin the album for me. I think
Mm-hmm. What are your, like, I would say your major gripes about this album,
I'd
if you
say
have any?
I
You know.
think I'd say like I don't necessarily have any major gripes, but I think
I don't either.
I
So.
I think like I think just like a minor complaint is just like I think he doesn't really have like a distinct sound. Like we mentioned, like he does take a lot of influence from other rappers and subsequent genres and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I just if he had a much more distinct voice and distinct flow, I think that could benefit him. I don't know if that's something that he can really do, because like if I listen to his song and then I compare it with like another rapper song who has like a similar thing, like I don't know if I'm gonna be able to differentiate them other aside from like the accent,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just sort of just my minor complaint is that he doesn't really have anything like super unique. Despite that though, I think like
Mm-hmm.
sort of like what when he talks about the culture of New Zealand, that's something that I can definitely appreciate.
Yeah, because
What he
I got
brings.
very invested in those songs.
Yeah, those are
Yeah,
the songs for sure. I got kind of invested.
because
I just yeah.
I know because I was gonna say, I was like, I was like, wow, like I didn't know about any of this
No, I
stuff.
had no idea about any of that kind of
Like
thing.
I'm glad that he actually talked about it.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I can appreciate coming out of this album.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I mean, it's really like yeah, you gotta have some funner songs on there. I just wish they were a bit more like concrete and more solid, along with like the introspective and more thought-provoking songs.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from that, I think this album was pretty solid for the
Oh yeah,
most part.
I definitely would say so too.
Yeah.
I myself I don't have very many complaints. I do
Yeah.
kind of wish he, I guess, could have maybe stepped out of his comfort zone a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I did feel like this, like, as a song, as the songs aren't bad necessarily, but I just kind of feel like try something a little bit different.
Yeah,
On
I'd
a
say
couple of the songs.
I'd say so. Yeah.
Switch up the instrumental, switch up his flow, or something like that.
Do you know if he's released any albums or any music as of late?
I
Because
know
this
he
album
released
came
an
out
album last year.
yeah, this came out in 2013, right? The album we're talking about right now.
Yeah, and then I don't know if this is true, but I think he might come out with an album next year. I want to say.
Okay.
But I do know that he was one of the main people to help bring Eminem to New Zealand for his first time.
Really?
I think he might have even headlined his concert when he first came to New Zealand in 2014.
I didn't know that. That was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he does have definitely some influence for sure, just
Uh-huh.
in the culture.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was one song, I forgot which song it was. I think it was Local Celeb, where he was talking about trying to move to the US. I don't exactly remember. It was either that song or it was or Follow or something like that.
Yeah.
Where I think he was talking to his significant other, a
Right.
girl, I think, about how it would be difficult for him to move to the US where where hip hop culture is much more prevalent,
Yeah, that makes sense.
and how what kind of an effect that would have with his relationship with her, and also his relationship with New Zealand as well. So I thought that was a pretty good song. I think it was Follow or something like that. I don't know entirely remember which one it was, but I thought that was interesting. Just sort of how he has to not only he has to prevail living in a kind of a unfortunate circumstance, he also has to grow past the fact that he is an American, and he has to just he can't really compromise because he lives in a completely different place.
Yeah,
He has
very, very far away.
yeah, exactly. So it's trying to move from one place to another is a pretty daunting task, So I think it's something that I'm glad that he talked about. I know other rappers that talk about that kind of thing. Moving from even city to city is a pretty big change, but moving from country to country is like a completely different thing altogether. So I think that was interesting thing that he touched upon a little bit.
I forgot what song it was. It was either Local Celeb or Southside, where he had a good play on words where he was talking about how it was like his own family was they were more concerned with keeping their cable rather than paying their rent because they're so obsessed with rugby.
Yeah.
You know, because like to take their minds off of the hard life
yeah,
that they go through.
yeah.
So I thought I don't remember how the wordplay was, but I thought like I didn't quite understand it at first. And it was something about Sky and whatnot, and I guess Sky Network is the main cable service in New Zealand. So I saw that on the annotation. I was like, oh, that was actually good, you know.
Yeah, that's a good play on words for sure. I think like I don't really know, aside basically just this because this is like just like my first introduction to like rap from like New Zealand, you know. So I don't really know like what the culture is really like over there. I'm not gonna make any more generalizations about other countries, but. It is interesting, like how it's from what he's presented, like how much of like how rugby is such a big part of their culture,
and just how you know for a small country, just how good they are at it.
Yeah, definitely.
And the whole dance, the haka, right?
The haka, yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's like a big thing for sure.
So it's like it's like for us trying to go into the NBA or the
NFL,
NFL. So
yeah,
exactly. So that's their version.
I think it's a little different though, because like it's much more like. I feel like it's way more ingrained with like how they like. I feel like it's just different. It's just like a different thing. Like we don't really have like a dance ritual, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, because that's a Maori thing, though.
Yeah. So like they took some influence from another.
So the Maori influence
culture
is definitely like large amongst everyone else, even if they're not Maori.
Yeah,
that's what it seems to me.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's definitely something interesting to talk about. Overall, what do you think about the album?
Good album. I would say it's not like the type of album to like dance or vibe to, but it's definitely like if you want to learn about him, David Dallas himself, and the country of New Zealand, and the not the subjects that aren't brought up a lot when it comes to New Zealand.
Right, definitely.
Definitely go listen to this for sure.
Yeah.
Major gripes. I would like it if you would, experiment more, but don't try to go the cardinal official route of where it doesn't fit and whatnot, or it just sounds awkward as hell.
Yeah, definitely.
And what would you say then?
I agree. This is like my first introduction to his music and New Zealand rap in general, and it was a pretty solid look into it. I learned some new things about the lifestyle that comes with growing up in New Zealand. I liked the influences that he notes throughout the songs. I like the production. I thought it was pretty solid. Like I said, I only have a few minor complaints. Is that I wish that maybe he approached some songs with like a little more like a different, just like a different like flow or different like, just like a different approach. Maybe add a little bit of flavor and switch up some lyrical content. I don't know, but just like change up the sound a little bit. But aside from that, I thought it was a solid project, and I definitely recommend it to like really any like people who are into like rap and looking for something new for sure. Ratings?
I think I would give it. I'm kind of on the fence about this, about what exactly to give it. I think I'd give it a. I think I'd give it like an 8.5.
8.5? That's pretty good. I'd probably give it like a 7.5.
All right.
I'd say that it's like a good score. I don't know if this is something that I would necessarily revisit, but I would definitely like.
I might want to listen to more of his. Because I definitely want to like.
I definitely would. Yeah, I think that's like the thing. This album in particular, like, is not something that I would necessarily replay, but I definitely like check out more of his stuff, and maybe other New Zealand like artists too, or people from near that area. So I think, that's just my rating. That's probably gonna do it for this episode. Thank you for listening. This has been Save the Semantics. Signing off.
So long.